Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Agent's Edge. My name is Ryan Palomini. Today I have a very special guest with me, Matt Walker, one of my good buddies actually. This is one of those interviews that I actually love because I get to interview one of my buddies from early childhood. I think we've known each other all the way back to like kindergarten, and my mom used to babysit for him. So by the way, so that's how far we go back. But the thing that I love about this interview is I've had the privilege of watching Matt absolutely explode. I mean, you want to learn from somebody who's absolutely out there killing it. Listen, his organization is doing between $800,000 to $900,000 a month in issue paid life insurance premium. This gentleman knows what he's talking about. He had 112 agents write business and get paid last month alone. So this is somebody that I'm ready to learn from. I know you're going to want to learn from him as well. So again, Matt Walker from down in, where are you, down in Tampa area now, right?
Yeah, Tampa, Florida. Yes,
All
Brandon,
right. Well,
technically Brandon, but just outside Tampa. Yep.
all right, perfect. Well, Matt, listen, if you wouldn't mind just taking a quick minute introducing yourself, then I want to get and ask you some questions, man, because I want to know what you're doing and how you're doing it. Because I know a lot of our people watching, they want to know how that they can build $1 million a month business, and how long does it take to do it. So I'll introduce yourself, bud, and we'll get started.
100%. No, thanks for the introduction. That was pretty good. As Ryan said, yes, we've known each other a lot. Just a fun fact: Ryan and I actually saw Lion King together in the movie theater. In the movie theater when Lion King first. That's how long we've known each other. So. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. I've got a pretty good memory. I remember going to see that movie with you. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. Last month, like we said, we issued just right around $800,000 in issue paid business. A little bit about me, my background. Went to school, played baseball, went to the University of Hartford, got out. Kind of, not sure what I want to do, like most of us, right, with a business degree, and I started to apply for different jobs. Ended up with Pfizer in the finance department, and did that for about a year or so, and just wasn't fulfilling for me. It was mom and dad were very happy. It was that typical, 9 to 5 jam with benefits and pretty decent salary. $50,000 a year, 2012. Good, solid salary, good benefits. The funny thing is, it was probably a little over a year, and I just every single day, man, I just wasn't feeling it. I honestly, if I had to be there any longer, and nothing against the company, it's a great company and all that, but if I had to be there any longer doing the 9 to 5 drill, and for some people they love it and it's for them, but I probably would have driven my truck right into a tree. So I got out of that. Decided I wanted to open my own business, wanted to run my own ship, have my own flexibility, and got into the personal training circuit. Full disclosure, actually, but backpedal a little bit. Before I went to Pfizer, I got hooked up with an old IMO. Ryan, yeah, I'm sure you're very, obviously you're very familiar with. I was there a hot minute, 3-4 months. In all fairness, probably not really ready to work, really work yet and run my own business. That being said, totally different deal. Very low compensation. A lot of resold leads, and just not the best program for the agent. So had a not so good experience my first run in insurance. Then ended up with Pfizer, opened up my own, after that, opened my own baseball facility, personal training facility. I had met Sean, Mike, at that first company. We talked a couple times, but didn't really have a serious connection with him. He decided to bring his son to me for baseball instruction, hitting instruction, and personal training. And he then became a client of mine, and he was just constantly dripping the opportunity to me. I was just kind of jaded from the first opportunity, but I really liked Sean. I really trusted him. And I said, you know what, I'd be crazy if I don't give this thing another shot. He was telling me what his average agents are making on a weekend. And so I said, my license had expired. I'm like, you know what, I'll go ahead and get my license, jump back into it. And, work some older leads, would go out and make, few $1,000s in a weekend. I'll never forget, I had one weekend where I made like $4,700. And I'm like, okay, this is about, what I make in a month at the gym. So I think I'm going to,
Sure.
yeah, I think I'm going to, take this a little bit more seriously and going full board. It was January of 17. I decided close up my shop, personal training and baseball facility, and really dive in full bore. And to your point, talking about we had 112 writing agents last month, around an $800,000 team. We got to get better average issue pay wise, because one of the things here that I'm a huge believer in, and family first life as a whole, but it's in our organization is really making sure that the agents are eating, because nobody wants to be a part of it. I don't want to be associated with a bunch of people that can't pay their bills, that come in, and I think that's the true recipe to having a successful organization. And I'm far from perfect. I'm trying to get better and learn every day, just as you are, Ryan. And I joke because we opened up a new office in Hollywood, Florida. We have a pretty large Spanish speaking organization with John Luzzy, my business partner here. And I went down there, and they come from another company that's not the company that we know, but a very similar company. Okay. And it's all about your upline, and edify, and they think you walk on water if you're it's just, which is like just so bizarre and strange to me. But I went down there. So full disclosure, I was on Alligator Alley. I left my house at 3:40 in the morning. The grand opening was at 10. I wanted to get down there early and dial leads and book appointments, because I'm a big believer. I'm a huge proponent of leading from the front. I wouldn't ask my agents to do anything that I haven't done or I'm not willing to do. And so I left the house real early. I wanted to get there around 7:30 because it was a pretty good hike across the state. And on the way there, I'm talking to an agent about 7:30 in the morning, not paying attention to my gas situation. And I ran out of gas on Alligator Alley. The point is anybody can do this. They really can. And that was kind of the point I was making at, I think they were expecting me to come out with something really, truly extravagant. And I'm like, guys, just to be very clear, like, I'm very imperfect. The one thing I will say is I'm not extraordinary at anything. There's a lot of things I'm not good at, but I have an extraordinary work ethic. I work really, really freaking hard. I've got a wife. I've got 3 kids. We found out my daughter had autism within the last year. We moved from Connecticut. While we found this out, it was a big transition. We moved from Connecticut down to Florida, away from our families, and which maybe doesn't seem like a big deal for most people, but it was coming to a new territory, having to rebuild, kind of rebuild down here and figure out my territory, because I've still got payroll and staff and building office expenses, and so for me it was a very big transition, and it was there was a lot of growing pains and a lot of curveballs that were thrown in the last year, from a personal standpoint, and to still run your business and go through the ups and downs and continue to always move forward, was quite the challenge. And but I really do truly believe just some principles that I've always lived by, and that I think people, that if you're trying to grow a business, whatever business it may be, but especially in this space, if you put your head down, it's very simple. It's nothing you guys probably haven't heard before. It's like you put your head down, you go to work, you know exactly what your why is, you review it every day. If your why is strong enough, your driving force is strong enough, you're going to win in this business. You're going to win this business. You're going to hit some up. You're going to go through crap. Right. You're going to go through chargebacks. You're going to go through agents rolling debt to you. You're going to go through, the guy you thought was unbelievable, but, he mysteriously wrote 20 grand in, 2 weeks, roll a bunch of debt to you. And it's like, but, I've had it all happen to me, and I just continue to, Ryan, I'm sure you can attest to it. It's like, you just keep moving, you keep the dial, you keep moving forward. You can't get complacent. This is the amount of money that you make per sale, whether you're selling annuities or IULs or simplified life insurance, the amount of money you make per sale is so inordinate. And, it's easy to come from a place where, especially if it's a 9-to-5, or if it's an organization that didn't pay very well, you make an average, let's just say, our agents make an average of $1,200-$1,300 per sale, simplified issue life insurance. It's easy to get content. It's easy to get content. And so, complacency will destroy you in this business. I was when I first started, I had to learn this the hard way. I was a manic business person because I made more money than I was used to making. So I'd go out, I'm like, oh my God, I can go out and make 10 grand a week. And then I would, kind of put things in cruise control. So I destroy myself for a week, 2 weeks, put things in cruise control for a little bit. And then you get out of that work mode. Don't ever get out of work mode, because as soon as you get out of work mode, you lose momentum. Momentum is an amazing thing to have and a dangerous thing to lose.
Absolutely.
And when you get out of that work mode, it's just something about getting out of that work mode. Bad things start to happen, and then getting back into work mode, aka getting back momentum, is a really hard thing. So I learned that the hard way several times. My learning curve is probably a little bit longer, than some people. I had to learn it the hard way The hard way is the best way, but I had to learn it several times. And I won't ever make that mistake again. And, at this point, in our business, my why is, just with everything that's happened the last year, and it's incredibly strong. I'm unbelievably fearful of complacency. And, I've got my mindset on a few things. I want to get our organization. I want to get as many writers, financially free as possible. And that there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that. And I think if you have that mentality of, it's not just, you're not just out for you, it's how can I get other people to have the same success?
Right.
It just works, man. It just does. Yeah. So, but for me, the next 6 months, I've got an opportunity to do something really big for my family, getting a deal with Integrity Marketing Group, which if you want to ask questions on that, Ryan, you're more than welcome to.
Definitely.
But I believe I'm probably around 6 months, maybe, give or take, to getting close to that. Really, I mean, very close to it. So awesome. For me, it's like I'm continuing to destroy myself day in and day out to get there, and doing everything I can for the agents and for the people that are working. And it's also, when you're building an agency, running an agency, you have to identify the people that are really truly willing to work, and the ones that aren't going to waste your time and do the little things. It's like, when we have new agents come, when I'm talking to a new agent, there's some certain things that you're going to need to do to earn, not to sound cocky or arrogant, but to earn my time, because I'm really busy and I'm working really hard for my family to invest back into my business. And so there's some requirements that we have. And they're very simple steps. It's like they get a welcome email. It's like, follow these steps, as soon as you do this, it's a game of fetch, call me. Then we have a lead strategy. Once you go over your lead strategy, your first dial day, it's 600 dials or your first 15 appointments. It's you're done. You're done. So I'll make agreements with agents and say, things like, if you had $1,000, I tell everybody, $1,000 is basically your minimum investment. It's your minimum investment here. It's a business. You can eventually, make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 or more a month. It's going to take some time. There's a learning curve. But if it's $1,000, I tell everybody, now you don't have to spend the money, but it's $1,000 to start, because it's a legitimate business. And so, if you had it's like if you had $1,000 and you knew you could make $5,000 to $10,000 a week, or eventually get to a point where you could be making acquire that skill set to eventually make that type of money a week, or $15,000, $20,000 a month or more. Like, you can't come up with $1,000. And so I'm really careful who I invest my time in. If it's someone that I have a really good feeling about, then I kind of go back to, okay, I'll ask them a question. Okay, if you had $1,000 to invest today, it's Monday, and I told you you're guaranteed going to make $5,000 by Friday, would you be able to guaranteed? Would you come up with $1,000? Well, yeah, I guess if I was guaranteed, I'd say, okay, so here's what we're going to do. All right, $1,000. So $1,000 in your first batch of leads. If you don't make your $5,000 in the first week, I will invest in you the next week. I'll actually get you your $1,000 back on your next batch of leads. But what I have them do, Ryan, is here are the requirements. I need you to be at the office at 7:30 on our dial days on Monday and Thursday. If you come at 7:35, the agreement's over. It's done. 7:30 on Monday and Thursday, and 600 dials. I need to see proof of your calls. Most of us use phone burner. 600 dials or 15 appointments for each of those days, whichever one comes first.
Wow.
I know that if they do that, if they follow, not most people, they know they've got a free $1,000. They're not going to follow through. But the people that do, I know they're going to book appointments, and they're going to write business. They're going to write premium. They're going to write business. And if they don't hit their 5,000 by Friday, hey, if I have someone that's willing to do all that, I'm okay. I'm okay taking a chance and investing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, all right. What I'm taking from this, because that was a lot, and it's a lot of good information. But what I'm taking from that is the system that you guys have in place, and it's not just a system of sales, but it's also a system of accountability. And I think that one of the things that we try to teach a lot, especially on this show, and people that come on and leaders like yourself, is this is a lonely business. And if you don't have somebody to hold you accountable, especially as you at the very beginning, it's why the majority of insurance agents quit, and that's why the majority of insurance agents only make $43,000 a year. Whereas somebody that's working with you is probably in the six-figure mark, and there's a difference, right? There's a difference between the systematic way of doing things and kind of the old school way of doing things. But Matt, let me ask you this. So you've got a big organization that we've talked about, and what I want to do real quick is kind of go back a little bit because you're here now, right? $800,000-$900,000 a month, which is absolutely smoking, but it wasn't always like that. Because I know a couple years ago, last time you and I talked, well, not last time, but a couple years ago when you and I were talking, when you were kind of getting things ramped up, you're like, yeah, I'm about $75,000 to $100,000 a month. And now all of a sudden, here we are a few years later, and you're on pace to 10x that. So walk me through, Matt, what has been the difference? Kind of take me through that journey a little bit not just from a growth, because obviously we know how to write life insurance, but from a mindset. What did you have to learn differently to become a better leader, to grow your business 10 times? Because anybody listening to this, Matt, is going, all right, look, I get it. I got to buy a bunch of leads. I can make a bunch of sales. But then it becomes repetitive, right? And it's something that a lot of people can't get past. But you did it, and you're teaching others how to do it. So let's go back a few years. Take us back to where you began when you were around that, which is still good, $75,000 a month mark. But the acceleration of growth. Walk us through that mindset-wise and then what that looked like from an organizational standpoint.
Sure. Before I do that, you talked about accountability, right? And so I think it's so big in this business because, but in addition to the accountability, I'm also big on expectations with agents, right? So
right.
So we talk about expectations. Like I let agents know. And this is something that I learned over the years. I let agents know that it's not going to be easy. This is not an easy, it's simple, but it's not going to be easy. And so,
right.
That was something that took me a second to understand that, just and then have those same conversations, that I had to have myself with agents. And so I let people know, look, there's going to be two obstacles to agents. There's going to be two obstacles that you come across. The first obstacle, again, back to that whole, you're going to make more money than you've ever made, or that first obstacle is going to be getting through that initial learning curve, right? That people, you're going to have a lot of people tell you no, you're going to have a lot of people hang up the phone on you. You're going to, most people, not everybody, but most people, Tom, you're going to suck, and that's okay. But if you can get over that, I can tell you one thing: you book your first 10 appointments, you're probably not going to be profitable. Appointments, it's a race to your first 100. If you get it from appointments to 11. From appointments 11 to 90, that's when you'll start making real money. So the first test is going to get through that. And the second test is once you get through that, to not take your foot off the gas. Because if you do that, you take the foot off the gas, you're going to start getting chargebacks. Yep. Now, if you do take your foot off the gas, which we're talking about now, so you shouldn't, but if you do, as long as you continue to go back to work, you'll be okay. Okay. But what people you have to understand that in this business, in our space anyway, as far as simplify your life insurance, 30% is going to fall off the books. If you know that, why would you ever stop working, especially the first few months? 30% of your business is going to fall off the books. But what happens with new agents is they finally get through that learning curve. They finally go out and make some sales, and then they go pay off their credit card that they want to pay off for a while, or they go, they take a vacation, not really sure why, because they think they've arrived because they've got 11 grand in their account. And then all of a sudden they have 3, 4, 5, 7 policies charged back while they're out of work mode, while they don't have momentum. And it's the worst stinking business ever, right? And now all the people that told them this was a bad idea and warned them about chargebacks, they're all creeping into their head and they're going, crap, this is too good to be, this was too good. There it is. It was too good to be true. It's like, no, we talked about this. Expectations are really big, Ryan. Going back to where I was doing, I don't know. A couple of years, about $75,000 to $100,000 a month. I mean, honestly, the biggest change was just, I was more I was more of a selfish agent. And what I mean by selfish is it was kind of like, all right, for me, I want to make enough money to provide for my family. If I build, if I share a little bit about the opportunity and help some other people do the same thing, that's a bonus. It's great. But for me, I got into this industry. I didn't get into this industry thinking I was going to build this, massive organization. I got in the industry because I wanted to I wanted to provide a better life for my wife and kids. I wanted more flexibility, and I didn't know where it would, I knew I wanted to make a lot of money one day, but I didn't know where it was going to lead me. So initially, and kind of the company theme was really more about, produce on a personal level, your production. And so I kind of just, that was what I was about. I wanted to beat as many people in the company as possible. And I wanted to make as much money, be as profitable as possible. So my expenses were my leads, and that was it. So it's very hard not to be profitable if you're doing, $30, $40, $50,000 a month, and your only expense is your lead bill. It's actually, they're quite easy to be profitable.
Right.
And so, but when I guess for me, I started to see what other organizations were doing. I saw what the company was doing. I saw the integrity opportunity, quite frankly. And I think Family First Life now has, don't quote me, but I think they now have 18 integrity partners. And these people's lives are forever changed. It's not
Absolutely.
multiple millions of dollars deposited into your account. Shares in a company, which is not a matter of if. There's a lot of companies out there that promise you equity, right?
Right.
This is real. I've seen it with my own eyes. I know what these people, I can't share it, but I know what these people are getting.
Sure.
And then the stock, the salary, it's essentially, I knew that I realized if I get sick, I get into a serious car wreck and I'm paralyzed and I can't work again, we're in trouble, right? So I kind of had that realization, had that epiphany. But then I also saw what other people were doing. I also wanted to be a part of more. We talked a little ways back, and I was thinking about going on a more of a one man type deal, right? But the one thing that was missing for me on that was the ability to manage more people. And change more people's lives, quite frankly. And it's what I'm really good at. So it was 75. So so from 75,000 to 100,000, I know people probably want a lot of specifics, but it was really nothing more than a serious conscientious decision. I think you need to be in the right system. I think, you have to have the right, the right, if there's no light at the end of the tunnel, then why the hell would you bother? I spend a lot of money on my, between payroll and office and leads and everything else. And then then the liability, the risk that you take. But it's kind of like, they say, like, all these Christmas, my kids are watching all these Christmas movies. It's like seeing is not, like in this business, like seeing is believing. Like if I see it, if I can like put a tangible, like I know it's real. It's not something made up. It's, and I've always been a little bit skeptical by nature. So, when you see a 26-year-old kid, I'll just say his name's Zach Twardowski. When I see a kid like that, build a over $1 million organization in, 2-3 years and doing a deal with integrity, I'm like, oh man, I gotta get on I gotta get on this.
Yeah. So Matt, it sounds like there's a few things. It was a different level of commitment, right? So I'm hearing you differently. You're going, when I was doing that, I was just kind of out there doing my thing. Yeah, we had a little organization going, but it was the level of commitment that said, okay, this is what's important to me, right?
And I'm sorry, Ryan, I mean to interject, but then finding other people with that same level of commitment.
Exactly.
And then it explodes.
Exactly. And that's the thing now is, so, you had that level of commitment, but it wouldn't have happened. My point that I'm making is it wouldn't have happened if you didn't have that level of commitment with that type of conviction that other people see it in you that go, wait a minute, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about, right? But he's doing something, he's onto something, and he's excited about the opportunity because look, you and I both know there's a lot of people that try to recruit people that are boring as hell, that have no motivation, no momentum, and are doing it just so that they don't have to work. With you, it's different. You are very transparent about this is how you make money, this is the system, but this is why we do what we do. And I think that because of your conviction and the way that you perceive these things, it allows other people to see you and go, he's attractive. Like there's something about him that I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know if this is going to make it happen for me, but he's on fire and I want to just hold on to his coattails a little bit. And then the uniqueness, I know the uniqueness of your situation is now you have your father following you and now you have a
Yeah.
family business that you're building. I want to make sure we touch upon that
I'm
because
glad you brought that up.
for me, I've known your dad since I was in diapers. That's the most exciting thing for me is to see your dad become financially free. But, and you can tell me better, it didn't happen until you became committed. And so talk to us about that because that's exciting. I love this story. I love how this happened because this is part of your organization. Now he's grown all over the country.
100%.
And it's just exciting to see because of where you started.
So before I even talk about that, and to your point, yes, you have to have that level of commitment. I still do. I still do. For a little while, I didn't because I was really focused on building, but I still do $40,000 to $50,000 on my own pen a month. I've made a commitment to continue to do that because I know that the agents are watching. I don't ever want to create any. I don't want to create any resentment. You'll never see me post on Facebook about going on some extravagant fancy vacation. You can call that weird. Like, why not? For me, I don't, because I know that say what you want. I've learned that it creates resentment. I've learned that I know that if I'm out working, I'm in my car or I'm on Zoom or I'm on the phone all day or whatever it is, and I'm working my tail off. I don't want to see Matt Walker. I don't want to see, somebody out on their boat, whatever, in Dominican Republic or wherever they are, going to Atlantis, in the Bahamas. I don't want to see it. Regardless, I'm going to sit there and go, Jesus, it must be not, it must be nice, right? And so I've just always found it really, I think one of the messages really important with all our new agents, and one of the things I hit on when I'm recruiting agents or talk to you, say, look, like, I'm not going to try to be cocky or anything like that. There's a lot of things I'm not good at, but I'm pretty good at this. I'm really, really freaking good at selling insurance and putting families in a better situation and providing for my own. I'm really, really good at that. So one thing you're going to get when you come work with me is you're going to get that. So if I can get agents, if I'm doing 40, 50K a month, Ryan, I can get agents to do half. If they've got adult bills, they're still able to live and survive. And so I want to talk about that first. As far as my dad goes, yeah, that's probably talking about helping people and talk about putting people. It's one of my whys, actually. So talking about whys, for me, it's my wife and kids. It's my parents, putting them in a better situation. That was when I started. I said, I made a list. I said, I want to provide for my wife and kids and make decisions based on what's in our best interest, not what's in our account. I never want to have to say no because of money. Not going to spoil my kids, but I'm never going to say no because of money. My daughter, very high functioning, but requires additional care and ABA therapy, and it's not cheap. I'm never going to say no because of money. I'm just not going to do it. Secondly, I decided I want to put my parents in a better situation, right? My goal is to take care of them at some point one day. That also included my grandparents. If God, if my grandparents end up in a long-term care facility or something like that, I want to be able to handle. Like I want to step in and handle that. It's a very close relation to my grandparents, and I want to go back. I want to look back in my life. My last part of my why is when I'm called the rocking chair test and I'm 90, 95, God willing, and sitting in my rocking chair, going back and forth and reflecting my life. I want to know that I helped. I want to know that I helped a lot of people. And that's always been my why. And it's funny. So that second part of my why about helping my parents, it's kind of funny how my dad, who, quite frankly, remembers the first experience in insurance that I had, and knew I was getting involved. I was closing up my business and I was getting involved in this, was naturally, as a protective dad, father, was a little bit skeptical and was kind of, wanted me to play on the side of caution. And So, I didn't take his advice. um, it's one of the things, at that point, it was kind of like, what I've always learned and what you've always learned, Ryan, is it's like, now my dad's a very smart man. He was a very smart man, relationship advice,
Hmm.
anything, going on in my personal life. He's my guy. He's my go-to. But my dad wasn't at that point in time, my dad wasn't where I wanted to be financially. So I wasn't going to, and it's hard because, I grew up in I think we had a very good family dynamic growing up. And, you could say we lived kind of a sheltered life in, southeastern Connecticut.
Hmm.
So what my parents advised or taught me or said, it was kind of like, it was gospel, right? So going against the grain on that was, it was a little uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, I was a man. I'm going to make my own decisions, and I see all these people making a lot of money. I'm going to give this thing a shot. And then fast forward, so that was 17. So fast forward to the beginning of last year when the pandemic hit. My dad had got his license prior to the pandemic hitting, and doing it part time, a very part time basis, not completely sold yet, running some some FES,
Sure.
some final expense leads, and the pandemic hit. So my dad, he worked for the state of Connecticut, family relations officer, so Department of Children and Families, 27 years, saw a lot of crappy stuff. He was just kind of over it, and he decided to beginning of the pandemic hit. He was very fortunate to be able to go into this thing full time, attack this thing full time. Um, still getting, paid from the state. So it was a very fortunate situation.
Sure.
But here, the point is, when he was able to actually go full time, um, he was a machine. He issues honestly 45 to 60,000. He's actually better than I am.
Wow.
What the hell? He's more likable than me. It is what it is. 45 to 40. It is what it is. 45 to $60,000 a month in a year's time. So he took a reduced pension, which was a big deal. If you're working for the state and you're taking a $1,300 a month reduced pension, that's a bit like to a state employee. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of time for his full medical to kick in and all that. So it was a risk, a calculated risk, but nonetheless, it was a risk, not knowing exactly what it was going to make. But in the last year, through nothing other than hard work and discipline, and that's what we talked about earlier, was that accountability and that discipline of,
Yeah.
even when, waking up every day like you're broke, even when you're, if you had a great week, bad week, doesn't matter, you're still maintaining that same level of activity. When I put well over 100,000. Now, again, his only expenses at that point, he's starting to build now, which is really cool. But his only expenses at that point were his leads.
Yep.
He put well over $100,000 into his business account in 1 year.
Awesome. That's
And
great.
so, that to me, seeing anybody change their financial, obviously that one hit really close to home, because it's
Hmm.
my dad, and that's part of my why. And it's just funny how my vision was always, I was going to give back. I was going to pay their house off, but my
Right.
dad's a really, really proud guy. And so to see him do what he's doing, was the best gift I could, to get him into this, and to get him to, and I kind of coached him to start. It was kind of that role reversal. I owed him, been coaching me my whole life, but to see what he's done the last year, and to see the way it's, even my parents, their relationship has,
Yeah.
always had a good relationship. It's gotten better. I mean, money is the root of all evil. It creates a lot of stress, and just to see how stress free they are has
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
like one of the most gratifying things of my life. And so I would say that, not exactly how I envisioned fulfilling my why, but it's a lot better, a lot
No,
better.
that's
So
awesome. That's awesome. And again, sometimes it's, it works in mysterious ways, but I think that you gave him generational, opportunities because, again, you were going to take care of him, but you gave him an opportunity to take care of himself and his family. And that to me, I love watching it because I've had the ability to, again, knowing you, we talk regularly. I'm like, hearing these success stories is just amazing to me. And then, but so Matt, tell us this, because I know obviously for the agents that are out there that really want to grow a business, Walk me through some of your numbers to make it real. Because look, people hear you, they go, okay, yeah, 800,000. He must have done something. He must have inherited. But the reality is you work your butt off. And I think that people truly underestimate the amount of work it takes to get to an organization of your size. And sometimes they feel like it's out of reach and it's not possible. So on a normal, I know there's nothing normal about what you do because you're always excessive about it, and I love it. But on a normal week, right? Walk me through your appointments. I'm talking about you personally for a second because obviously this translates to your
Absolutely,
agents and advisors.
100%.
But so walk me through the amount of appointments you run.
I get
Uh,
excited. I get excited talking about this.
I
Yeah,
know
go
you
ahead.
do. That's why I want to. That's
All
why I
right.
want to wrap up with this because I mean, if
Yeah,
people watch this are going to go, all right, give me the nuts and bolts of this. So
sure.
we want to know the amount of appointments you run on a weekly basis. How many recruiting calls do you make? As far as I know, you probably don't make the initial, but how many people are you talking to? Are you putting in class? And then, so walk me through some of those numbers because obviously you're recruiting a ton to get to that level, but now you've taught others how to recruit. So I know it's starting to kind of work away from you a little bit, but tell me about your numbers.
So yeah, well, I'm be full disclosure. I'm the worst metrics guy on the planet. I was actually talking to Matt Shaleri about this like a week ago. He's a big numbers analytical
I know
guy.
he is
I'm
very
the,
analytical.
I am the absolute antithesis of a numbers metrics guy. It's kind of like I'm going to work my balls up, work my butt off. Excuse my language. I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to mess things up. It's going to be a mess. But it's like, for me, it's like, how fast can I screw it up
Right.
so I can learn how to fix it. But just to talk about my activity, I've shifted some of my personal sales. So I do a combination of, I kind of do a hybrid approach. It's a combination of face-to-face, meeting the client face-to-face. That's a combination of direct mail, internet leads, and Facebook leads. I do that twice a week. My goal is to book 8 to 10 appointments face-to-face 2 times a week. On Mondays and Thursdays are always my dial day. Dial days. But Wednesdays and Fridays are my run days. So Wednesdays and Fridays, I'm going for 8 to 10 face-to-face. I do it every week. That's my goal. On the other days, including Monday, I'm either doing a couple things. I'm either dialing and booking appointments. I've got a couple of live transfer campaigns that I run for telesales that I was kind of unsure about it initially, but I'm really liking that. I'm getting a pretty good return with those, and I'm able to maximize my time a little bit more being at the office more. So I'm running several live transfer campaigns with all the campaigns turned on, and they just come. I got 43 licenses, and I attack them as they come in. It's kind of funny. I'm like, one of them comes in, and then I gotta, like, as I'm on the phone, I gotta pause my other campaign so I don't get another call that comes in. So I've got the live transfer. So basically, if I'm not doing live transfer leads, if I'm not booking appointments, I do have an appointment center that helps me book appointments, which allows me to maximize my time with live transfers and talking to agents. I do have a full-time recruiter, which we prospect in a multitude of ways. We do use some services where we recruit agents that cost money. We also hit people up, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, posting stories constantly, dripping on people constantly. So but I'm constantly, we have an applicant tracking system. So as the agents are coming in, I'm following up with them, especially if they're licensed. Unlicensed, it's kind of like they need to follow up with a protocol. If I have a really good feeling about them, or the recruiter has a really good feeling about an unlicensed person, I'll reach out to them, introduce myself, whatever. But for the most part, I'm reaching out to all the licensed agents in between my live transfers and my booking appointments, and at night, and on the weekends, whenever, because I want to get a touch on them, because I want them to meet me, who I might be working with them directly, or I might pass them off to somebody else who I think they relate with better. But I'm speaking to those agents. And my number one goal with them is to inspire them and to remove any fear about the business. And so I want to get that initial touch, especially with the licensed agents, to get them excited and to get them moving and to get them excited,
Sure.
and then, yep. Good.
Do you do a lot of recruiting locally or do you do it nationwide? Because I know a lot of people watch this are going to go, well, I live here in Tampa, Florida, but how do I recruit in California?
Glad
So
you're
do you? So to walk me through that because obviously your organization is nationwide now, but did it start that way? Did you start in a specific area and let it grow? Walk me through that.
Yeah, we started kind of because you want to have a good home base, right? You want to have a
Right.
good home base culture where you've got that team camaraderie. Everybody's coming to the office, and you're doing dial-in contests and appointment. Seeing who can book the most appointments. Putting each other's creating that accountability, putting names
Sure.
up on the whiteboard. So there's that. There's definitely that. We have agents in, obviously New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Carolinas, Texas. We always joke we got a one-man show out in Montana who does 30K a month. It's yeah, I mean they're all over the place. The good news is, so what Family First Life has done is they have this thing called Work Spots, and it's an app that any agent can download. No one has to download it, but you get lead discounts on it, and you can plug into any office.
Mm.
There's now close to 300 offices nationwide. Sean, I've never known Sean to not hit a goal. His goal is to break 400 offices across the country, which would mean that any agent that signed up with Family First Life now has access to work spots and is now going to be no more than within 2 hours of an office.
Wow.
So that's been very helpful. So if I hire if I hire an agent in Dallas, Texas, right?
Mhm.
There's a couple offices right in Dallas, Texas. And we have this kind of mutual understanding where, if the manager from Dallas, Texas, Joe Schmo, hire somebody in Tampa, Florida, and they're on work spots and they're signed up with my location, they can come use the office. I'm going to help them just like they're one of my own agents, and they're going to help my guy just the same way. It's just good business, and it works
Sure.
really well. And I think, nothing that I created, but it's been very helpful. I think with new agents, it's just like you mentioned earlier, it's a very lonely business, especially when
Yeah.
you're first starting. And I operate out of my basement for the first year, and it was very lonely and a lot of distractions. And so,
Mhm.
as a new agent, I think it's very important to get to an office, get around other people that are doing it, and if not, get on a Zoom dial session where you're dialing with other agents that know what they're doing. Super important, man. And so, I think as far as to answer your question, yeah, we hire nationwide because honestly, because we're blessed to have a setup to be able to do that and have agents get plugged in, with an office or Zoom dials or what have you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
No, and
mean,
that's huge. I mean, it's huge because I remember back in the day, the company you and I both started at wasn't like that, man. And that culture also didn't exist, right? It was, just to get you guys out of my area. Why are you
can't
recruiting in my
cannibalize.
area?
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I'm happy to hear because it allows you work as a whole, right? And I think that's why Family First Life that you work with has grown so much because that understanding, that mutual understanding, plays a big role in allowing you to grow in different areas and have the help that you need. So Matt, let's wrap up with this. If you could, if you were watching this and maybe you were just getting started or you're kind of at that point where you've been doing this for a few years and you're ready to really take off and 2022 is going to be your best year, give the person listening 3 things that they need to do in 2022 to take their business to the next level.
sure. First things, reach out to me. No, um, Matt Walker, Family First
Yeah.
Life Invasion, 860. No, the first thing I would say, you know, again, you have to figure out why are you in this? Because this is a hard business, man. It really is. And if you don't have a strong enough driving force and why, you're going to have a really hard time. You have to figure out what your why is. If it's building an agency, your why needs to be really strong because you're going to go through a lot of crap.
Right.
I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. You're going to go through a lot of crap. You got to have some thick skin, and you got to be willing to go through it. But figure out what your why is. Once you figure out your why, then you need to figure out exactly what's your target, right? What's your target? What's your target market? What is it you're trying to accomplish? Am I trying to get to, 40K a month as a producer, or am I trying to build a $1 million, eventually build a 500,000, 700,000, $1 million agency?
Mhm.
Figure out exactly what that target is, and then we need to come up with a game plan, as to, you need to get advice from someone that's done it. And again,
Right.
this isn't about me. I mean, I'm learning every day. I'm far from perfect in this business, but there's enough people in the insurance industry and in Family First Life that do far more business than our agency does. You need to find someone that's actually done it. And I think once you identify your why, once you identify exactly what your target is, what your goal is, that the first setting incremental goals, your first month, your first 2 months, 3 months, six, and then if it's not working, then we got to reevaluate. But you need to come up with it's eat the elephant one bite at a time approach. Figure out exactly know your why first and foremost. Figure out what you're trying to accomplish in the next month, 2, 3, 4 months or more. And then come up with a game strategy and figure it out and get with people that have actually been there, done it, and learn from them. Those are, those would be my requirement. It's going to require capital. It's going to require capital. So you need to go out there and do it on your own. You need to produce at a high level on your own and make sure that you have enough cash flow on a monthly basis. Cause if you're going to build you got to treat this thing like like $1 million business.
Right.
You can't just throw a couple dollars at it and expect it to be $1 million business, $2, $3, $4 million business overnight. You have to spend money. It is what it is. You have to put the capital and invest money like it's a multi-million-dollar business. You wouldn't invest $500 a month or a week into a multi-million-dollar business. So you need to figure out. So first, I think it's, I need to get myself confident enough, because you can't speak confidently about the opportunity and share it with other people if you're not confident yourself about it. So you need to get there first. You need to get financially. You need to get financially. You don't have to call it financially free, but you need to get yourself in a position where you feel really good about what you're doing as it pertains to helping the clients and as it pertains to, helping your own family and putting money in your bank account. Once you can get there, it's very easy. I started out sharing my bank deposits, and you can call it corny, you can call it braggadocious, whatever. But if I do that every single week, if I show that every single week, eventually people have to pay attention to it.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, I felt really, really freaking good about what I was doing for clients and for my families. Why wouldn't I share that? So I think, so you gotta, you have to get that right first. That's first and foremost. And then I think you have to then start with, sharing the opportunity with your warm market via social media. Get on the phone, get on the phone. Because if you're that confident about it, why wouldn't you share it with everybody? Right. So, getting other people in your circle to buy in, and and then from there, make a commitment. Just make a commitment to yourself. I need to be at this point in X amount of time. I need to be at 500,000 in 7 months, or I need to be at 1 million in the next year and a half, whatever that may be. And then to take it a step further, we talked about earlier, you need to find somebody else. You need to find a couple of people, because if it's just about you and making money, you're going to fall short. Sean says it's, if you get into business because you think it's cool, or you want to be just an entrepreneur, and you just think you're there for the title and because you want a little bit of flexibility, it's not going to work. If you're in it because of money, it's never going to work. You're never going to build something massive because it's just about you. But if you really do it to where you're trying to change other people's lives, your business, and you have a bulldog-like work ethic, you've got thick skin, you never get complacent, and you keep moving day in and day out and do all the right things, it's going to work. It's going to absolutely 100% work. So
I love it.
Probably end there.
So let me just recap, because I heard 3 things. I heard, number 1, know your why going into next year. That was number 1. Number 2 was find somebody that's doing what you want to do. So we can even call that a mentor, right? So in 2022, find someone who's where you are, where they're at and where you want to be, and follow them. And the third thing I heard you say is develop a strategy, because I think very few people actually have a business strategy, that they're going to implement on how to grow, things to do to grow. So those 3 things, and I think that's very helpful, because look, that's the foundation, right? Is knowing your why, where you're going, following someone who's doing it. And once you have those 2 things down, develop a strategy, because strategy is going to give you the confidence that you were talking about.
Just to add a little bit on that strategy is also knowing that Rome wasn't built in a day. So it's
Right.
kind of like, it's kind of like in baseball. You got to ride your start nine for a little bit. You can't
Yeah.
just because your three hitter, your four hitter, or your five hitter, whatever, has a couple bad games, doesn't mean you put him on the bench and put somebody else out there. Cause then all of a sudden, the guy's talented. He gets back out into the lineup and he's like, I gotta look over my shoulder because if I have a bad game. So the point being is come up with a strategy, put a lot of thought into it, and go with it. Go with it.
Right.
You can't listen. You're not going to be profitable. Like if you expect to be profitable in a month or 3 months or 5 months, it's forget it. I mean, there's no multi-million-dollar unless you invented something really special and you got to deal with Shark Tank. It's not going to happen. So have patience, discipline, and patience to whatever strategy you come up with. That's not going to be built overnight. You have to give it. Listen, if it's not grown in 90 days, give it 90 days. 60
Right.
maybe, but 90 days is really, if it's in 60 days, it's like you're dying, then you got to reevaluate. But
Yeah.
give your strategy give it 90 days to go. All right, we're rolling. We're going to keep going, or I don't. You just got to keep moving through it and make adjustments as you go.
I love it, man. Thank you so much, Matt, for your time today and being on. I know it's dial time for you, so I'm gonna let you get going there. But again, thanks for being on, man. This has been a big help, and I know people watching are going to take some valuable information. I love it because it doesn't matter what organization you're with. This show is really about you getting content, listening from the leaders, no matter what organization they're with, to help you grow your agency to the next level. So thanks for being on, Matt. And for all the viewers, make sure that you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment below if you thought this was helpful. Matt, thanks again for being on today, bud.
Thanks again, Ryan, for having me. It's an honor and a privilege, brother.
Absolutely, man. If you've ever wanted to learn how to write over $5 million a year in annuity volume, Level Up Advisors Academy was built for you. In this academy, we talk about things like how to do massive annuity production, assets under management, big whole life and IUL cases. Look, 5 years ago, before I built this product, I didn't even know how to spell the word annuity, but a simple system that I learned allowed me to write over $5 million a year in annuity production and now over $10 million a year. I took what I know, the system that I've built, and I put it into Level Up Advisors Academy for you to be able to have access to it 24/7 on demand. If you've ever want to take your business to the next level, this academy was built for you. Click the link below to get access today. Look forward to working with you in the future.